Hello and welcome to episode 292 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. We've talked a lot about this class. We talked about the rookies. We talked about running backs, which I'm absolutely thrilled for. You see Dane Brugger's mock that we just, ended up putting out a pod on last week. You see some of these running backs, Caleb Johnson going in the first, Junty in the first, all the guys that we wanted to going in the second, Travion Henderson to the Cowboys. That's a sexy round one Superflex mock. And if you guys haven't seen that, go ahead and check it out on YouTube, check it out on our podcast. But then we talked about the wide receivers, and Snoog and I have a good 5 or 6 wide receivers we really love in this class before we even dig deeper. And then today we're going to talk about the quarterbacks. A lot of people really don't know what to do with the quarterbacks. We're going to talk to you today about Shedeur Sanders, about Cam Ward, and about the way that you guys should be handling your Superflex drafts. Nobody better to do that with than my main man Snoog. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I think this might be one of the worst positional groups in a class that I've looked at since like 2018, 2019 range. Definitely the worst since 2020, especially it's right there with the 2022 QB class. It's better than that class was. That's definitely the worst. But it's there's maybe 3 guys that you could see maybe being starters on an NFL offense, maybe 4 if Quinn Ewers can figure it out and put it all together. But I'm happy for it because I think they're going to get good draft capital and they're going to push the guys I really want up boards or down boards for us. So that's where we kind of come in and help you guys position, because you should already have your quarterbacks. You shouldn't be relying on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders to come in and fix your dynasty team. If you're in that situation already, then you got to make moves. So that's what we're going to try to help you kind of realize and understand, that this is a weak QB class, but kind of who we like, who we don't like. Early on in this process, obviously things change, but kind of what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what NFL draft analysts are talking about, and kind of the traits that they have and some of their stats. So let's jump right into it.
Yeah, this reminds me, I absolutely love when there's a class where I don't need a quarterback. And we talk about foundational quarterbacks and foundational wide receivers being the way to build your dynasty teams. And everybody keeps talking down on this 2025 class. But if you built your roster right, you drafted Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Malik Neighbors last year. Now you're filling in with the running backs, and I think you have to look at it like the year when Kenny Pickett came out, where you're like, damn, I don't want to touch him, but I'm glad that he's in this class because he's going to make everything else just a little bit sweeter. And I think, Snoog, with this class, we could see 3 guys go in the first round of the NFL draft. 2 of them are likely going to go top 5. That's really just going to make what we keep saying, that smash zone of that 6 to 9 area. I think you're ultimately going to get, in some leagues, you're going to get Ted McMillan at 104. And you're going to be absolutely thrilled because you're getting a foundational wide receiver where I don't think any of these quarterbacks are. Right now, I want to make sure we talk about it, but the Patreon is absolutely blowing up. We have so much time that we're really investing into you guys, into the Dynasty community. Snoog, if you want to pop that up there while we're talking about it. But this has been awesome because we're talking about rookies. We're talking about how you guys can make your advantage, how you can talk about startups. We just updated our top 100, including positional and values with this rookie class. Some of the guys, I got to read, another testimonial here because these guys are just pumped. Every single week we're adding 10% to what we had from the week before. You guys are really coming out. But T. Ditulo 6 said, joined in October this year and ended up winning 2 out of my 4 leagues. First win in a redraft league, and I've been doing it for 10 years. You guys helped making some of the moves down the stretch to give me my best shot, and it really paid off. Excited to be in the community for the Dynasty offseason for the first time and get to load up for next year. Snoog said he hasn't won a redraft league in 10 years, and he joined our Discord in October, and he won 2. Think about that, guys. That's just, you're taking it from a situation where you haven't won. You've really just been donating to the league, and you join, and you ultimately win 2 because of it. And so many guys, so many stories about that. Guys are just loading up, coming into it at the right time. We got comments like this. Awesome guy on Twitter, all22FF. Just got to my desk. This is perfect time to listen while I'm diving into some stats and film. He's over there, player profiler. Player profiler. So make sure you guys check him out. Snoog, this is kind of a 1A, 1B for me. I kind of go back and forth between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. ultimately one of these guys, there's a lot of rumor that Cam Ward's going to go 1 overall. And if that happens, we have to at least put it in a spot where, you know what, he has to be the QB1 if he goes 1 overall. So I'm going to start with Cam Ward. When you look at the tape of these two players, it's not something that's exciting. And I know we're always the guys that hype. We're always like, yo, you've got to get Tet McMillan. You've got to get Caleb Johnson. And we start talking about players that we're really excited about. When it comes to these quarterbacks, we're at a spot where like, okay, I'm going to see what they have here. And when I start looking at Cam Ward, a lot of the comps that I'm seeing is Geno Smith plus. I'm seeing, Steve McNair light. You look at someone here where Cam Ward ultimately looks like he's, in his measurables, 6'2", 223 pounds. So that checks the boxes. 40 time projected at 4.87. I mean, that's running in quicksand. So that
makes sense to me though. I don't think mobility was a big part of his game. I think he has good escapability from sacks and out of the pocket, and he has decent rushing upside, but he's not like a primarily rushing guy. So
and
to me,
I mean, arm talent. I think arm talent. I mean, he's considerably higher than Shedeur Sanders for me. He has that rare arm elasticity and release speed. Obviously, he gets the ball out quick. He gets it into tight windows. I saw when I was watching things, he improvises very well. Like you were saying, he gets out of pressure. He has some skills that you can't teach, which is nice. You see him where once he gets out of that escapability and extends plays, keeps his eyes downfield and maintains good throwing mechanics. So I like him there. Processing speed has improved every single year. You see him there. And like his accuracy in the intermediate game is fantastic. Now, if he goes to Tennessee, ultimately, hopefully they take some wide receivers to go there too. But I mean, this is big for Calvin Ridley. It would be big for this offense. But talk to me a little bit what you've seen when you look at Cam Ward, because people are going to want to draft him. They're going to want to say, okay, I have that third pick. I'm going to pass on Tet McMillan. I'm going to pass on Travion Henderson. I'm going to pass on Caleb Johnson. I really need a quarterback. So sell me a little bit on Cam Ward, and then we'll talk about some of the negatives.
I mean, the best thing about his game that I noticed is he plays the quarterback position like a point guard, and not all quarterbacks can play it like that. But like you said, he's an improviser. He's a field general. He sees the field well. He can extend plays when needed. He has a lot of those like, oh, wow, type of throws on tape where it's like, okay, that's an NFL level throw. That's good speed on the ball. That's through a tight window. That's good, has good touchdown field. That's where I see the upside and where I see why people have a lot of love for Cam Ward. I mean, he's a guy, one of the Heisman finalists this year, 91 plus PFF pass grade this year. He had a good year, 4,000 plus yards, 40 plus total touchdowns. No doubt about it. He turned that Miami franchise or college around and just really brought that organization back to life. They were one of the top contenders. I mean, they didn't get to win the ACC. They ended up losing and didn't get to win that out. I would have liked to see that more for Cam Ward, but he did show up in the big games. I mean, his last bowl game, he went absolutely crazy. This is a guy that came down yards per attempt this year was like 9.5. So he was throwing the ball downfield. He wasn't just throwing checkdowns and kind of wasn't a yak merchant at all. Him and Restrepo had that chemistry. He was hitting deep balls. He was hitting the ball across the middle of the field well. Is he CJ Stroud? Is he Drake May? Is he Jaden Daniels? Is he Caleb Williams? No. Is he a Bo Nix type? Is he a JJ McCarthy type? I think he can be like that. So I think he can be like that guy, maybe like a high-end game manager plus with the traits, with the right coaching staff. That's what people don't understand is this quarterback position at a young age for a lot of them come in. They need that coaching staff. They need that scheme, that offensive line around them. They need some type of system that fits their skill set because we don't know what he was asked to do at Miami. Was he calling his own protection schemes? Was he making adjustments? Was he able to do anything, or was it just first read and then that's all he was in that offense? It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, quarterback's the hardest position to evaluate by far. I mean, we have our guys we like that, like you can just see it clearly that they're studs, like the Bryce Youngs, the Strouds, the Mays, the Daniels, all those type of guys. But with a guy like Cam Ward, I mean, he played at, I don't even know the name of the school for his first 2 years, then transferred to Washington State, was a pretty good player there. Then he came, put his big boy pants on and made some noise at Miami. So, yeah, I mean, he's projected the first overall pick. He's favored to be the first overall pick. A lot of guys that are smart with the quarterback position, a lot of previous QBs evaluating say that Cam Ward's their QB1, so I can see it. I mean, I like the play of his, and I think that he can get there.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Shador, I literally think it's like whoever gets a better landing spot and the better head coach. Like I would rather. Like, I think it's going to literally come down to that. But as a player, I think I'm going Cam Ward here.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that really impressed me, obviously, is he's someone that looks like he really commands the huddle, someone that has good leadership skills, except when he walked out on his team, which obviously looked a little bit bad on tape. But I mean, he's someone that during the big moments, he seems like a guy that has ice water in his veins. Does he make some poor choices? Absolutely. You know, he's got that gunslinger mentality. I was impressed to see, you know, despite that 4.84, he did rush for 300 yards this past year. So he might have a nice solid floor when it comes to that. The biggest thing that I'm looking at in this class, Snoog, is you hit the nail on the head when you said landing spot. If Ben Johnson lands in, you know, into a spot where we get a good coaching staff up at the top and he goes there, you're going to have a
like Vegas
player.
Yeah.
Like if they move up, or even, you know, there's rumor about a lot of teams moving up for Shador or for Cam Ward. And if they get into that, you know, into that second spot where they get into a team where they really need a quarterback and they have a good system, all good. I'm not into the Tennessee system at all. I've been to the games in Tennessee. I've watched Will Levis flop, you know, like this is something where they're going to need some major help. And I think in this class, we have quarterbacks that have top 12 to 15 upside. That's the cap, right? We talked about last year at this time of the year, because everyone said, well, Dad, you know, where are you taking these guys in startup drafts? And, you know, in the Patreon, in my top 100, I have the 103, 104, you know, going outside the top 36, where last year we were talking about Caleb Williams was a first round startup pick, you know, and he's still in that range. He's now moved into the second. We talked about Jaden Daniels was a second round startup pick. I don't think any of these quarterbacks will be top 3 right out the gate. We knew that Daniels, May, and Caleb Williams, they had top 5 potential, but we were saying all offseason, they're top 12 dynasty quarterbacks with top 5 upside. Right now, I think you look at Shador Sanders and Cam Ward, and you're like, these are top 18 to 20 quarterbacks with maybe top 12 upside, you know. And I think when you talk about Steve McNair and Geno Smith being the ceiling for Cam Ward, I think that's an okay QB2. Yeah. I don't want to invest my 103 in that, though. 108? Okay.
Know what the comp is for Cam Ward's comps that I see a lot. If Michael Penix was a righty coming out of college, I think they have very similar profiles. They're kind of those older QBs, had really good last year, or helped really carry their offenses. They both have like similar traits. They're both not very mobile, but can kind of move around. And I see Derek Carr a lot on Cam Ward's film. Just like that good arm talent, shaky at times, makes you think he's really good, and then makes you think, this guy doesn't have it type of player. I could see the Derek Carr type career for Cam Ward as well, where he just kind of ends up being that guy, that experienced rookie, comes in, maybe like a Bo Nix, has like a decent rookie year, good situation, maybe with Ben Johnson over there in Vegas or whatever happens. And then he kind of has like a big spike just with because that's what we don't get. Like, you can be the most talented quarterback on the football field and not be good in the NFL. Like, it's that simple. Look at Justin Fields. Look at some of these guys. There's so much more between the eyes. Can you be the leader of the franchise? Can you have all that weight on your shoulders? Do you go to practice on time? Are you reading into your playbook? Are you learning your reads? Are you working through your progressions? Like, there's so many things. Can you call your own blitz packages and protection schemes and all this type of stuff? We don't know if they can do that. We can just tell you if they can throw the football at all 3 levels. Can they rush? Can they extend plays? Can they play the position like a point guard? If I was an NFL team, I don't think Cam Ward or Shador Sanders are worth top 5 pick. I'm not touching either of them.
Especially I'm taking all this class.
I'm taking the superstar defensive players. I'm taking the offensive tackles. I'm tanking for next year or the year after for an Arch Manning or one of these other guys. I think both of them are like top 15 to top 20 draft picks, in my opinion. Jackson Dart even slipping into that top 32 range for me, but I don't think any of these guys are worth taking number 1 overall with what you can get. You can get an Abdul Carter. You can get trade back at a Travis Hunter. You can get Ted McMillan, some of these other receivers. You can get some of these Will Campbell tackles, Michael Williams, Jalen Like all these Jalen Walker from Georgia, all these superstar Malachi Starks. There's just way too many good defensive players. And a lot of these teams have awful defenses up at the top of the screen. So I'm happy the Patriots got Drake May last year and the Commanders got Jaden Daniels, because now two teams that generally will root for don't have to get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders there. But I mean,
the tough part I see about Cam Ward is like some of the comments when you're looking at weaknesses. The good thing is he can make plays that other quarterbacks can't. The negativity is he's a gunslinger that's going to try to trust his arm way too much. He's going to try to make big time throws into small windows, which again, that's what we talked about with Will Levis, right? Like absolute top of the line when you talk about hero plays, also absolute bottom of the line when you're talking about decision making. And when we talk about ball security being a concern, you talk about, consistency, and I really struggled with deep ball accuracy. Intermediate, he was pinpoint accuracy when I look at things. Deep ball, really, really ugly. Like it just needs some consistency when he reads those complex defenses, when he has those deep balls. And I think I'm going to probably end up with 0 shares of Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, me too.
And I have no problem with that, because what I'm trying to do, and you and I talk about this all the time, is if I'm sitting there at 103, maybe even 102, I'm starting to say, hey, they're looking like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders are both top 5 picks in the NFL. Anybody looking to get a quarterback? Because the NFL and dynasty leagues are very similar, right? What's the most important position in the NFL that everybody's trying to get? What's the most important position in your Superflex dynasty that everybody's trying to also acquire? It's the quarterback. Everybody needs the quarterback. And that's why we push process over results so often, where last year we were telling you to trade up with your 25 first to get up for Drake May, to get up for Jaden Daniels, to get up for Caleb Williams, because you're going to get a quarterback you're not going to get the next year out, and we're going to tell you that this year. Go get your running back, because it's not going to be the same in 2026. And I think that really is the biggest takeaway from this is, if you're new to the show, and a lot of you are, you make sure you guys hit a smash subscribe button. The YouTube page has gone up, honestly, in the last 3 months, 1,400, so you guys keep subscribing, share it with your friends. But we're trying to teach you guys, like, if you pay attention to what the classes are, you're going to move up. The next one, Snook, you and I were
prime example of that real quick is just last year. We told everybody avoid these running backs at all costs. People were taking Jonathan Brooks in the late first. They were taking Trey Benson, all these other running backs really high in that early second round, late first round range, even for Brooks. It just wasn't that type of class. And like, you just got to read the room. Like, this is the class. You avoid the QBs, you take advantage of the running backs and tight ends, and you take advantage of the wide receivers like Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, that are going to fall down draft boards because people want Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward when they go whatever. I'm still like not even convinced one of them goes first overall, but what do I even know? Like, at this point, teams are so desperate to take quarterbacks and get their guy. Like the Titans, the Raiders, those are desperate teams. Like, they're probably going to reach on these type of quarterbacks and get a Geno Smith or a Dak Prescott at best out of these guys. And then it's just like, okay, you guys are back to needing a quarterback 5-6 years down the road because you can't get that franchise guy. So that's why I just think take the defensive player, tank for next year, and get a better quarterback.
And then we moved to Shedeur Sanders, which a lot of people have as, his stealing area is where Bo Nix was this year. I think JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Shedeur Sanders, very similar territory, right? They're guys that, they're great from the short to intermediate. They're guys that I think can move around with their legs. Someone that, all 4 of them have what I would consider really good processing speed. I think they really, understand what they're doing pre-snap. They make those NFL caliber alignments. I think Shedeur Sanders is a little bit more pro ready and a little bit more stable than Cam Ward. Cam Ward's going to make some big games, but he's going to have some real learning curve. I think Shedeur Sanders comes in and with his accuracy, with his ability to move the chains, with his ability to he takes care of the ball as opposed to
command an offense. He can command an offense pretty good. Like, he can get like a good flow of an offense and put together good drives. I mean, he's another one. Him and Ward have damn near identical stats. Like, if you just look at the raw stats and the breakdowns, they both had 4,000 plus yards and 40 plus total touchdowns this year. 22 and 23 years old, both hit 90 plus PFF pass grades. Both were in that same like 5 to 6% big time throw percentage there this year. both had like 8.5 to 9 yards per attempt. So they were throwing the ball decently far downfield on average. And they both had pretty mid pressure to sack ratios, kind of in that like 16 to 20-ish range. I think Ward had a 25% in 2023. So they're both guys that I think will thrive with good offensive lines and a good system and a good scheme. But they're not guys that you go and draft and send them over to the Titans and they turn the franchise around with nothing, right? Like they're not going to go save the Browns franchise, right? Like they're not those type of players. Like they're not like a Jaden Daniels that are going to bring you to the NFC Conference Championship or CJ Stroud that are going to bring you to 2 back-to-back playoff wins in 2 straight years. They're more like Michael Penix, sit for 8 games, maybe come in at the end and have some good games and put together some good plays. They're more of those type of quarterbacks, in my opinion.
I would love to see Dallas trade Dak, honestly, to
and take
the
Shador
Raiders.
And then get Dion.
Get Shador. Yeah. Like move yourself all around.
Cool.
I mean, I think Shador, the unfortunate thing there is when he gets pressure, he takes way too many negative plays. I mean, he was sacked 52 times in 2024. Yeah. The offensive line was poor, but what you see,
it's
right?
Horrible. That's the thing.
It is, but you see a good quarterback make adjustments to that, and they get the ball out quicker. When you watch Shador Sanders under that pressure, what did he do? He kept trying to go back further, make those plays, and trust his arm talent. And just, do you understand what I'm saying? Is like there's a lot to improve on his game. I think he is a pretty high ceiling prospect, but I don't see him more than being, you and I were talking about, Dak Prescott light. You know, maybe that's like the ceiling. 12
Derek
to
Carr, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Dak. He's like those guys.
Those guys have their place. But what you and I have been doing for years now is we keep talking about at the quarterback position, you know, when Anthony Richardson was coming out, I was trading Anthony Richardson and a future first to get the Jalen Hurts because you're building off that. Now all of a sudden, 2 championships later, you're like, oh, I really didn't need that first anyways. You know, and now we're talking about this year. If you have any of these 102, 103, 104, offer that and your 26 first if it's late for Drake May and get something else thrown back in. Because I think Snoog, I mean, I would trade the 101 possibly for Drake May, you know, and I think that's no one's on that consensus right now. 102 in a heartbeat, but I would consider it with the 101. And I think this is what we're really trying to do. If you're in a spot where you're rebuilding, then you go ahead and you tier down from 103 to 110. And then instead of going and getting a Shador Sanders or a Cam Ward, you get a Emeka Egbuka, you get, Luther Burden, you get that next guy, or you even you take Tyler Warren and you get another first, and that's really what this class is going to be about, is taking the class, knowing what the profiles are, and tiering up or tiering down. It is draft capital, because like I have one league where I have 9 firsts and everybody's like, enjoy that with this class. Guess what? We all get rookie fever. Every single one of us gets to get in there. Yep. We want to move up. We want to move down. And on draft day, you're going to be able to do that. The third quarterback in this class, you and I differ a little bit, is I know he's a raw prospect. Okay. I get it. I think Jalen Milroe is going to go in the second round of the NFL draft. If he goes in the second round of the NFL draft, there are so many comparisons outside of just the name and the athleticism, but the similar type of what you were able to do with Jalen Hurts. Everyone said Jalen Hurts couldn't pass when he was coming out. Everybody said Jalen Hurts was, just a run first type quarterback. We were going to get him there and he's going to mature behind Carson Wentz like he did. I was taking him 210, 212 in Superflex drafts everywhere. Do I think Milroe has the same ceiling as Jalen Hurts? No. But I do think you're going to draft him at 208 to 212, and you're going to have an opportunity once he starts, because he will, to sell him for a first. And this is process over results again, where Penix Jr. I was taking at 203, selling him for first. He's all the way up to like 107 in this class, which is crazy. We were doing that with Will Levis. We've done that throughout the process. That's a thing that I've always been. It's like, once you get past 208 in this class, you're gonna be rolling the dice on a wide receiver. Give me Jalen Milroe. It's not pretty. I know you're gonna kind of like tap out on it, but the athleticism is absolutely fantastic. Explosive speed, agility. He makes big plays with his legs. Mm-hmm. Does he get it done passing? No. I mean, he manipulates the field pretty well. and he's a tough competitor. Do I think he's a good passer? No. Does he have good poise? Yes. He has the leadership, and this is all stuff we said about Jalen Hurts, right? He's a good leader, not a great passer. We said he was great under pressure, but these are things where you have to understand he's in a pro style offense, and I think he's going to do all right come year 2 if he goes to the right spot. And they Jalen Hurts not on the Eagles could be a major discrepancy of what we're talking about. Jalen Monroe going somewhere where he can sit and learn for a year behind somebody legitimate, we could have a decent super flex pick.
Yeah. All right. So he's my QB5. That's fine. I get your process. I'll go ahead and I'll sell everybody listening on why you took him QB3, just with some stats that are like, okay, I can see the vision there. But with Jalen Milroe, I mean, 2 seasons over 2,800 plus passing yards isn't bad. Like, that's okay. He did okay in the SEC throwing the football. He had some very ugly moments, some underthrows, some bad picks, some just has no clue, like 0 touch on the football. A couple of the Ryan Williams this year that I saw, but he had 2 seasons with 800 plus rushing yards and 2 seasons with 12 plus rushing touchdowns. So the rushing upside is definitely through the roof. The dude is literally like a running back. He's like 6'2", 230, and he runs like a 4.5. He did have a season this year with 20 plus rushing touchdowns. So he could be in the NFL. I could see like some type of Taysom Hill, Justin Fields mix, where if he does get starts, he's going to run like crazy. And maybe some type of offense has fun with him doing that for a year or 2. And then you have that sellout window. But he had a 32% pressure to sack ratio in 2023, which is one of the worst I've seen. That's like just brutally bad. It got better. That was 2023. This year it got a lot better. It was 18%, which is still not good, but better. The issue with him is very raw. Can he learn an NFL offense? Can he make reads? Can he go through even 1 to 2 progressions? It's all that stuff that is an NFL team's going to look at him and say, can he do this stuff? And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of love. I'm sure he's going to come into the combine and run. He's going to show off his athleticism. He's going to do everything at the combine. That's going to be his day. I don't think, like, people keep saying, like, well, A-Rich, but A-Rich to me, like 6'5", 2, like, he was just a ridiculously built and perfected prospect that there was just so much upside because he's that 6'5" guy, gunslinger arm, 20 years old. He was so much younger. It's different. I just don't know how the NFL is going to view him, but my QB3, and not even like my QB3, I think.
Hold on. Yeah, you got to look at, 726 rushing yards, 20 touchdowns. This is someone, honestly, you hit the nail on the head. Combine, he is going to blow up his stock so much.
Yeah,
and the fact that
combine.
He's taking advice from people that really know what they're talking about. He is at Alabama. He leaves apparently $5 million NIL on the table. That's not someone that comes out and ends up going, and I know a lot of people say, well, this is Malik Willis 2.0. Malik Willis thought he was going to be a first-round pick and fell all the way to round 3, round 4. Milroe is not going to do that because of being at Alabama in a pro-ready system and then getting advice from people like Nick Saban. He's going to go round 1 or round 2. It's just, and therefore he's already going to be pushed up boards and kind of get into that area. So sorry, had to get that out there.
I get it.
I don't love the prospect of him passing, but I feel like he has potential to grow into something of a Jalen Hurts light. He's not Anthony Richardson because he's 6'2", 225.
Yeah, and you're really starting to see with the NFL that like these high level players, like they're running the football, like the quarterbacks are running the football. Look at the 4 quarterbacks left, other than Mahomes. But like if you look at just everyone that was playing this weekend, like they all could run. Even Stroud, like was a guy with back-to-back 40+ rushing yard games. Like when he wants to run, he can run. He's not Lamar, but he can be a Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson type runner, maybe a light version of those guys and go 30, 40, 50 yards rushing.
I love it.
Milroe is a guy that mine's Dart, and it's not even that he's my 3. I don't even have like a QB 1, 2, 3, like whatever it is. I think there's like 3 QBs that are like the guys. Like I think it's Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson, Dart. That's kind of how I'd rank it today. But like if Jackson Dart gets similar draft capital to some of those guys or just goes in the first round, I would take him all day at cost for what he's going to be going for over the guys that'll be going 102, 103, 104 in our rookie drafts, like Shador
Mhm.
and Cam Ward. Dart, though, I love the tape. He's a fun player. He has a lot of gunslinger type vibes to his game. I mean, he's 21 years old, 4,000 plus passing yards this season. He was pacing 5,000 plus yards and 40 plus touchdowns with Trey Harris this year. Trey Harris got hurt. I truly think if Jackson Dart and Trey Harris had that connection for the whole year, I think
Mhm.
Jackson Dart would be in the conversation for a top 3 pick right now. I really do. If these guys are, I think he would be in that conversation. I mean, this is a guy 2 seasons over 3,000 plus yards. He was at USC, then he was at Ole Miss. Young player, still has a ton of development in his game. Reminds me a lot of like a Bo Nix. Like I think he can get there to be like a Bo Nix type player. Similar measurables, like in that 6'1", 6'2" range. Decently mobile. Gunslingers can throw the ball downfield very well. Big time throw percentage was the best out of any of the quarterbacks in this class, and his yards per attempt was the highest with 10.7. I mean, he's a guy doing it in the SEC. I just like to see like that type of player that like makes plays. He can move a little bit. He's pretty mobile out of the pocket. Like he can just kind of do it all. Reminds me a little bit of like a Bo Nix, maybe like a Derek Carr, like those type of guys that can be that guy. Maybe sit for year 1 and come in year 2 or year 3 type player and just develop and learn. He's still so young. So Jackson Dart to me, I think a hot take is he could be the QB1 of this class when it's all said and done. Like I wouldn't be shocked. But like
Mhm.
a safe take, I think is he's truly going to be a first round pick and a top 3 QB in this class. And he's going to be a better value than some of these other guys that we're talking about. I still need to watch so much tape on all these guys and kind of dive through more. I like watching QB breakdowns. Like Kirk Benkert does good QB breakdowns on YouTube.
Mhm.
And some of these guys just talking about the things that I don't know. So I want to like learn and hear about that and see what they're seeing and why they
Mhm.
see that. But I know Cam Ward's a loved player. Shador Sanders, Jackson Dart, both loved players as well from some of these guys. So I think that's going to be the top 3 QBs for me. Let's
Mhm.
talk about this last guy because you and I are both like, ugh, but he's another one. Quinn Ewers, 21 years old still. I mean, another 6'2" guy. That's the weird thing about this class. Why is every QB like 6'1", 6'2"? Like, I don't get that part. But I mean,
Mhm.
Quinn Ewers, another one, 21 years old, like still could have probably been a Bo Nix and stayed for another year or 2 and boosted draft stock with veteran experience. But 2 seasons with 3,000 plus passing yards as a true freshman at Texas, or redshirt freshman when he came over after, so his redshirt sophomore. He was pretty good, and then he got hurt. Like he had that good game against Bama. He's always been good against the good teams. He has a weird thing with his game, though. Like he throws a moon ball, very inaccurate at times, and then he just absolutely turns up. So this year, 3,400 passing yards, 33 total touchdowns. Pretty good year. Like he had a very good year this year.
Mhm.
7.8 yards per pass attempt. His big time throw percentage was terrible. 4.3, terrible. You don't like to see that. Where are the
Mhm.
big plays? A lot of his offense and scheme with Steve Sark is check downs, bubble screens, a lot of screens in his game. I don't know. Talk to us about
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers. I think he's a guy that goes to a team and sits for a full year and like learns and ages and gets some experience.
So with Dart, I see like a Carson Wentz light. When we're talking about sticking with quarterbacks and gingers, I see this as like an Andy Dalton light. He's got
Okay.
good ball placement. He's someone he's accurate, and he's
I like the
shown
Andy
that he
Dalton
can
talk.
be. He's someone that you look at what he did on the road, which is it's very important when it comes to playing at a high level. 15 touchdowns, just 1 interception this past year. Going into different environments is huge when you're talking about playing big time competitive, SEC football. And you're like, okay, he is someone that I think is gonna be consistent. I think he's someone that showed that he threw a touchdown in every single game this year, 20 straight games. That's fairly impressive, but he's not someone that's going to wow you with his arm strength. He's going to have to win based off having a clean pocket. He's not super mobile. He can move. He's
Yeah.
functional. That's kind of why I go with Andy Dalton. Is nothing is overly wowed, right? And then when Andy Dalton came out, he was considerably better, I think. But
Yeah.
I see this as a guy where is he going to be a starter anywhere? Could he be? I don't think so. Could he be a guy that gets drafted and sits there for in round 2, round 3, sits for a year, gets an opportunity? like a Aiden O'Connell this past year, where you're like, he sat there and then he got an opportunity. I think he's better than Aiden O'Connell. That's not where I was going with, but he could go somewhere where he's the QB2, QB3, wait a year, wait 2 years, and you have it. And that's the big difference between last year and this year, right? And the crazy thing, Snoog, is I still love 1 through 12 in Superflex, where last year we had 5 quarterbacks going in the first round, at least 4 in every single draft. And you were like, damn, look at what I'm getting early second. This year, it's like you only have 2 quarterbacks, and if you don't like them, you don't have to take them. But damn, like you are going to get – I'm looking at early seconds right now, and it's Dylan Sampson, it's Colston Loveland, it's Cam Scatterbo. Like you're like, we didn't even push up any of these other quarterbacks yet, and your early 2s are looking like first-round values. And that's what everyone keeps crapping on this class. But to me, it's still got a lot of firepower, 1 through 15 at this point.
In the last 20 seasons in the SEC, Jackson Dart has the most passing yards through 4 games, right ahead of Joe Burrow in 2019, Mac Jones in 2020, and Drew Lock in 2016. I see, like when Drew Lock was coming out, a lot of people say that's kind of like a Jackson Dart comp. I could see that for Quinn too. I think Quinn is more like that really high, kind of like low ceiling, like not a high floor player that could be like either or, but like he has the pedigree. Like, I mean, this is a guy that was the highest recruited QB ever. But with Dart, for me, I just see a guy that's ready to go, like maybe sits for a few games and I can make some splash plays. It's going to be a fun little thing to see how the QBs play out, because it's one of those things that I don't think nobody really knows right now. They're just doing their thing, seeing kind of where they're graded out. But if you just look at 2024 and 2023 combined, if I combined all those classes together, I'm taking the big 4 plus Bo Nix last year over Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, and Dart. I'm taking Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson over them. So if you combine the 3, Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, Jackson Dart would be like with like right above like the Will Levises, like right with like Penix and like those type of players, in my opinion. So that's kind of an idea of how the QB class is viewed in my lens. Not players I'm reaching on, not players I'm taking over a Travion Henderson, a Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, a Mecca Ibuka, Luther Berg. If I have 103 and it's Cam Ward, I'm flipping that pick and I'm going and getting after some of these guys that are going to help build out my roster. It's just my process. I always do that. I mean, I liked Stroud. I like Drake May a lot. Drafted a ton of them when they were rookies, but I just don't care. I didn't care for Jaden Daniels, didn't care to own Caleb, didn't care for Bo Nix. Give me Brian Thomas Jr., give me Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers. That's how I build my teams, and it works. So everybody has a process.
Let me put this into perspective for this class, okay? So Ashton Junty, he's the RB3 in Dynasty already, okay? Wide receivers, I have Ted McMillan already as my RB13. Tyler Warren, I already have as my Dynasty tight end 6. Tyler Warren, in my rookie equivalent values, is 110. Guess what? You're probably going to get him around 110. Ashton Junty is worth the 101. You're going to get him at 101. Thet McMillan and the other wide receivers in that area are worth the 102. You're going to get him at 102. Now, here's the tricky part, right? Everyone's telling you Cam Ward and Shador Sanders are worth the 103 and 104. The quarterbacks I have worth the 103 right now it's not even close. I have these guys. I started to go through my rankings, and I'm like, all right, would I rather have Kyler Murray? Absolutely. Would I rather have Brock Purdy? 100%. Mayfield, Goff, Tua, Lawrence, Prescott. I'd rather have all of those guys, and I have those guys worth the 104 to 108. So what I'm saying is you're going to invest in these guys. The 103 is worth the 103. Don't even talk about it. You know, like that's not what people don't understand is that pick value doesn't change. But when you draft Cam Ward at that 103, I'm dropping that all the way down to the equivalent of the 108. So that's why I have him. I'd rather have McCarthy. I'd rather have Penix. I have him over Darnold and Bryce Young. And Bryce Young, you could argue.
I'm taking Bryce over him.
So outside Bryce of that, then we're looking at this where Shador Sanders and Cam Ward could be top 5 picks, but they're also going to be in your back end QB2 21 to 24 range. Why are you paying the 103 for it? That's all I'm saying. So think about that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's all about the process for us. And speaking of process,
even if we're wrong, before we cut it though, like we'll cut it, but even if we're wrong, it's the right process because there's so much risk with these QBs. Like there's risk with Caleb Williams type quarterbacks, as you saw this year. Never mind guys that are like fifth year playing in the friggin' ACC and in the ACC and in the Pac-12 or the Big 12 or wherever Shador Sanders played even before Colorado at Jackson State. Like it's such a big learning curve. Like there's just so much to it. So quarterbacks is risky. Minimize that risk. Go get players that could build out your roster and go trade for Trevor Lawrence or someone like that along that range and that same value. But kick it back to you for that outro.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process. Snoog's like, hey, I got to crap.